Have you ever noticed how sometimes a sentence just feels, well, like it could mean two different things?
Absolutely. It happens more often than you'd think.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, this idea of quantifier scope ambiguity.
Right. Those little words like every and a, they seem simple enough.
But they pack a punch. Our mission here is to sort of figure out why sentences with these quantifiers can get these different readings.
Yeah, the source material we looked at really gets into the nuts and bolts of it. It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, so quantifier scope ambiguity. What is that fundamentally?
Well, it boils down to how the order of these quantifiers, words like every, some, a, how their order affects the logical meaning.
So like the order we hear them isn't always the whole story.
Exactly. We talk about surface scope. That's pretty much the order you read or hear. But then there's inverse scope, where the underlying logic, the meaning, seems to flip that order.
Okay, an example would probably help here.
Definitely. Think about every dog chased a squirrel. Simple enough. Every dog, one squirrel. Or maybe, wait.
See, you got it.
Eh.
The surface reading is probably, for each dog, there was some squirrel it chased, maybe different squirrels.
Right. Dog A chased squirrel X. Dog B chased squirrel Y. That kind of thing.
Precisely. But the other meaning, the inverse scope one.
Is that there was one specific squirrel, maybe a particularly unlucky one.
Maybe. And every single dog went after that specific one.
Okay, so a squirrel suddenly seems to have scope, like influence over every dog in that reading.
That's the idea. And linguists have theories about how this happens, how we get from the surface words to these different meanings.
Is this where that QR thing comes in, quantifier raising?
They got it. QR, quantifier raising. It's a theoretical concept, a kind of silent movement in the syntax.
The words don't actually move on the page, but...
But in the underlying grammatical structure, we imagine the quantifier phrase sort of raises up to a position where it takes scope.
So for the one specific squirrel, meaning a squirrel might conceptually raise higher than every dog in the struction, giving it wider scope.
So these syntactic operations, even if they're invisible, they actually change the meaning.
They absolutely change the logical interpretation, and that's crucial.
Right, because those two meanings, for every dog chased a squirrel, describe totally different situations.
Exactly. The truth conditions change. What makes the sentence true or false is different depending on the scope reading you pick. It really matters for, precision.
And it's not just quantifiers interacting with each other, right? What about adding negation?
Yep.
Like not.
Oh, yeah, negation adds another layer. Think about every guest didn't eat the cake.
Okay, so does that mean no guest ate any cake? Like for every guest, it's true they didn't eat cake.
That's one possibility. That's negation having scope over every guest.
But it could also mean not all the guests ate cake. Maybe some did, some didn't.
Perfect. That's the other reading, where every guest has scope over the negation. It's not the case that all guests eat cake. See the difference?
Wow, yeah, that's quite distinct. Does this happen in, like, all languages?
Yeah.
Or is English particularly ambiguous?
That's a really interesting question. It seems to be a pretty common phenomenon, this kind of ambiguity. But how languages handle it, how they might prefer one reading or use word order or tone or other cues to sort of signal the intended meaning, that can vary quite a bit.
So some languages might have fewer of these inverse scope readings readily available, maybe?
Potentially, yes. Or they might have different grammatical ways to make the scope clear from the start.
And the material also mentioned a connection to binding theory. How does that fit in, briefly?
Right. Binding theory deals with how things like pronouns refer back to other parts of sentence, like noun phrases. And the scope of a quantifier can actually affect what it can bind. So whether a pronoun like his can refer back to every boy, for instance, can sometimes depend on the scope relations in the sentence. It's all interconnected.
So really the big takeaway here is that there's this hidden layer of structure, isn't there, underneath the simple words we use?
Absolutely. The surface order is just part of the story. How these quantifiers interact, their scope, profoundly shapes the actual meaning.
It makes you realize how much processing we do automatically when we understand language.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And maybe something for you listening to think about. Next time you hear a sentence with every or a or some, just pause for a second.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, wait, could that mean something else? Is there another way the scope could work? It's just a tiny peek into how incredibly complex syntax and meaning really are.